Hi, my name is Milka. I live in Swinford, County Mayo. I would like to invite everyone to my two upcoming um, exhibitions. The first one is in November in County Mayo Library in Ballina, and the second one is in AK Photography in Ballyhonis. How do I find inspiration? I would say that the main sources of my inspiration are nature and subconscious. When it comes to nature, it is the surrounding landscape. I started to paint when I moved to Mayo. I was living in Dublin for 12 years before, and the ever-changing dynamic nature I can see in my garden made me paint. In my work I use mostly oil paints. I also experiment with other materials to create texture. I use bubble wrap, I use modeling material to create 3D effect in my paintings. I do both figurative paintings and abstract, so I think everybody can find something interesting for themselves. I will show you an example of my texture painting. This is a painting from a series called The Answer is in Biology. And you can see I use the bubble wrap and oil paints. This is one of my first paintings. I painted it in my garden. So the nature was the inspiration, and then I added some of my imagination. I started to paint when I moved to Mayo, and I think the change of the surrounding from a city landscape to my wild garden gave me the impulse to create. You would like to know what my dream project would be, and actually there is something I dream of when it comes to painting. I would like to continue my series, The Answer is in Biology, and I would love to make an exhibition out of it. What kind of work I prefer? I think abstract would be my thing, because figurative painting also doesn't require to know exactly what you're going to paint, but abstract gives you complete freedom. You can basically do anything with your painting. Why art? Because there is nothing that gives us more freedom than art. And I'm talking about freedom of expression. My favorite and the most inspirational place for work is my garden. Because it's wild, because it's full of colors and textures and compositions and animals. So far, that's been my favorite place. I don't search for inspiration in other artists' works, but obviously I have my favorite artists, and that would be, my artist number one would be Marina Abramovic, even though she's not a visual artist. I also love Marc Chagall and Edgar Degas, all Impressionists, Gauguin. Yeah, they would be my favorite artists. I have neglected my painting routine recently because other things were happening in my life, but most of the time I would be working almost every day, sometimes 7 days a week, from around noon until 5-6 in the afternoon. I usually work on 3 works at the same time, because when I'm on one of them and I can feel that I can't go any farther with it on that day, I switch to another one to be more productive. Also, oil paints dry for ages, so you need to take a break sometimes from the painting. and that's why I switched to other paintings at the time. If you want to start painting, just start. You don't have to know what you're going to paint. What I do in this kind of situations when I don't have a good idea for a painting, I start with the background and then I start to put dots and shapes, and at some stage you will see it will all come together as a lovely painting. And with oil paint, since you can put many layers one over the other, you just paint as long as you create something you like, and then you can stop. My interest in arts definitely, at least partially, comes from home. I was surrounded with books about paintings, and my parents were always bringing me to art galleries and museums when I was a child, and I was very creative. I had some break as an adult, and now I'm back to painting full time. How do I stay motivated when I face challenges? Well, challenges is what motivates me actually, because I know that stepping out of the comfort zone will allow me to grow as an artist. What is the most important skill for an artist? Well, I'm sure there's many skills the artist should possess, but I think perseverance is one of the most important ones, because we come across different challenges and blocks, and sometimes you just lack energy to create or be as creative as you used to be. And the most important thing is to never give up. So this is one of my first paintings. It is untitled. I painted it in my garden, so the landscape you can see is something you can see in my garden. I have chickens, so hence the rooster in the painting as well. I must say that I started with the landscape and I had no idea where the painting is going, but that's the result and I'm quite happy with it. This painting belongs to a series called The Answer is in Biology. I used bubble wrap and oil paints to create the texture and 3D effect. The series The Answer is in Biology is inspired by different natural phenomenons, and I add a little bit of literature or philosophy to it to explain the phenomenon, so we can kind of use the knowledge in our daily life. This painting is called Him and Her, and it's part of my number of abstract paintings, and it's created completely intuitively. I try not to think. I work in silence when I create these kind of paintings, and if you ask me how did I create this image, I wouldn't be able to answer. Do Buddhas have dreams? If you don't know the answer, have a look at the painting, you might find it. It took me about a week to paint this image, and I was trying to describe it for you, but somehow it's not happening, because I just use my intuition for painting, and I'm sure there are some symbols in this painting, but I don't use them consciously. I'm not trying to create a story with this painting. The story just happens while I'm painting. When I was painting my first abstract, it was just for an exercise, just to try whether I'm able to paint an abstract. And I put it up on Instagram, and almost immediately I got invitation to an event in New York City, uh, created by a New York-based composer, Margin Alexander, who invited us 12 artists and 12 works basically to his concert, and he composed a beautiful piece of music to my abstract painting, and I would like to invite you to have a look at it. There's a link to it on my Instagram page, Lady Milo or milka.koziolek. Painting is not a form of relax for me. However, after a few hours, usually after 2-3 hours, I get into this trance state when I no longer have to think about what I'm painting. I have a feeling sometimes that the painting is making itself by itself. And the technique I'm using refers to pointillism, but it is not. I usually do it to cover elements of paintings I no longer wish to keep. Also, I use this technique when I don't have an idea what to do next. I find it very creative because it stimulates creativity, and I think it's a perfect technique also for those who are not sure of their abilities, because I think the dots will always look good. And as I said, oil paints are very forgiving, because you can put as many layers as you like, and you can cover the parts you don't like in your painting. So I think it gives a lot of courage to beginning painters